The grocery store was small, its air faintly scented with flour and dust. To the customers who came and went with filled baskets, it was an ordinary place. But to the woman standing quietly near the shelves, it was a battlefield. She was a single mother, and today her entire fortune rested in the palm of her hand, just a few coins. She pressed them tightly, as though they might slip away if she loosened her grip. Her coat was thin, her shoes scuffed, and her tired eyes carried stories no one else could see. Her children waited outside on a wooden bench. From the glass door, she could see them, her son, trying to hide his hunger by pretending to play with a pebble, and her daughter, leaning against him, glancing at the shop every other second with innocent hope. The sight pressed against her chest like a weight she could barely carry. She looked at the shelves. Bread, milk, eggs, fruit, so many choices, yet none of them hers to take. She had counted her coins 3 times already. No matter how she arranged the numbers, the result was always the same, barely enough for 1 loaf of bread. Her throat tightened. She remembered when shopping wasn't like this. Once, she had lived with ease, with a husband by her side, laughter at the dinner table, and cupboards that were never empty. But life had changed. An accident had taken him, and with him went their stability. Since then, every day had been survival. Finally, she reached for the bread. It was light in her hands, too light for what it meant. At the counter, she laid it down carefully and pushed the coins forward. "Just this, please," she whispered. The shopkeeper nodded, his eyes soft with quiet sympathy. As he wrapped the bread, she stole one last glance at her children outside. Their little faces lit up at the sight of the paper bag. For them, this was enough. For her, it was everything. He had been standing a few steps behind her the whole time. At first, he was just another customer in line, his hands resting calmly in his pockets, waiting for his turn. But as the minutes passed, his attention was no longer on the shelves or the items he had planned to buy. His eyes were drawn to the woman ahead of him, the mother counting her coins with such fragile care. He noticed everything, the way her fingers shook as she sorted through the change, the faint hesitation in her movements, as though she was calculating not only the price of bread, but also the cost of disappointment if her money fell short. The way her eyes flickered toward the door, where 2 small faces waited, their hope pressing against the glass. He wasn't a man easily moved. He was used to numbers, contracts, and boardrooms where emotions had little space. He was a CEO, a figure accustomed to commanding attention and respect. Yet here, in this modest shop, he felt something stir within him that he couldn't ignore. The woman placed her coins on the counter. He watched her shoulders sink slightly, the quiet defeat of someone who wanted to give more but couldn't. He could almost hear the unspoken thought in her silence, "Let it be enough." It struck him. To him, money was abundance, figures so large they often felt abstract. To her, money was bread. Just bread. When she took the paper bag from the shopkeeper and turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of her face. There was relief, but it was fragile, overshadowed by exhaustion. And when she stepped outside, her children leapt from the bench, hugging her as though she had brought them treasure. His chest tightened at the sight. For a moment, he stood frozen, caught between his world and hers. He remembered his own childhood, a mother who had also carried too much weight alone. He remembered the nights she went hungry so her children didn't have to. Success had buried those memories, but this scene pulled them to the surface with startling force. He could walk away. It would be easier. Just another day, another stranger's struggle. Yet something inside him resisted. He couldn't unsee what he had seen. So he stepped forward. His polished shoes clicked softly against the floor as he left the line and moved toward the door. Outside, the sun cast long shadows, and the children clung to their mother's skirt. She bent to kiss their hair, her smile trembling at the edges. He cleared his throat gently. She turned, startled, her wary eyes meeting his calm gaze. And for the first time, their worlds touched. The mother turned at the sound of the stranger's voice. "Get more, whatever you need. I'll pay for everything." For a second, she thought she had misheard him. The words sounded too unreal, too kind, like something pulled from a dream she hadn't dared to have. Her grip on the paper bag tightened, crumpling the edges as though the bread might slip away if she loosened her hand. The man stood only a few steps away. His presence was calm but undeniable, like a steady flame in the wind. His suit, his polished shoes, the quiet confidence in the way he carried himself, all of it told her he belonged to a world far from hers. Yet his voice carried no arrogance, no distance. It was gentle, almost tender. Her heart pounded. Why would he say that? Why me? Her children looked up at her with wide, questioning eyes. The little one tugged on her sleeve. "Mama, what did he say?" She swallowed hard, unable to answer. Suspicion came first, because kindness like this didn't just appear in her life. Kindness, in her world, often came with strings. Her pride stirred too, whispering that she didn't need charity, that she could manage, as she always had. But then her gaze fell to her children. Their eyes were fixed on her, full of fragile hope. They didn't understand pride, they only understood hunger. Her lips trembled as she whispered, barely audible, I can't accept that. I don't want to be a burden." The man didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped a little closer, his expression steady, his eyes holding hers as though he could see past every wall she had built. His smile was small but warm, the kind that carried no judgment. "You're not a burden," he said softly, his voice certain, almost protective. "You're a mother, and mothers should never have to fight this battle alone." The words struck her like an arrow, sharp and gentle all at once. No one had spoken to her that way in years, not with respect, not with understanding. She felt something break inside her, the weight of endless days and sleepless nights, the quiet sacrifices no one else ever saw. Tears stung her eyes, and this time she couldn't stop them. She turned her face away, ashamed of crying in front of her children, in front of a stranger. Yet the tears kept falling, as if her body had long been waiting for someone to simply say, "You don't have to do this alone." The silence stretched, heavy but not uncomfortable. The man waited patiently, not rushing her, not pressing. He had opened a door, the choice was hers to step through it. And in that moment, standing on the street with her children's small hands clutching her skirt, she realized something. Accepting help was not weakness. Sometimes, it was the only way to keep moving forward. Her tears fell freely now, hot streaks cutting down her cheeks, each drop carrying years of quiet battles. She hated that she was crying here, in the open, where her children could see, where a stranger could see. But she couldn't hold it back. His words had touched something deep inside her, something she had buried beneath layers of endurance. She shook her head, trying to form words. "No, I thought just one loaf would be enough. I've learned to make do. I always make do." Her voice cracked on the last word, betraying how fragile she really was. The man didn't step back. He didn't look away from her tears, nor did he treat them as weakness. Instead, he met her pain with steady eyes that didn't waver. He lowered his voice, as though speaking to her and her alone. "Enough for children?" he asked softly, almost like a father speaking to his own. He shook his head gently. "There's no such thing. Children deserve more than scraps. They deserve warmth, laughter, full bellies, and the chance to dream. Survival isn't enough for them. They need to live." The words pierced her heart. For so long, she had convinced herself that survival was victory, that if she could keep her children from going to bed starving, she had succeeded. But hearing this stranger's conviction unsettled her. It was as though he was reminding her of something she had forgotten. Her children deserved more than enough. They deserved abundance, joy, and hope. Her children looked up at her, their small hands gripping her skirt tightly. The younger one's innocent voice broke through the silence. "Mama, can we really get more?" She looked down at their faces, thin but hopeful, eyes wide with trust. Her throat ached. How could she say no? Her pride screamed inside her, warning her against taking charity, warning her against depending on anyone. But her love for her children drowned out that voice. Pride didn't fill empty stomachs. Pride couldn't buy milk or fruit. Pride couldn't quiet the hunger she sometimes heard in the middle of the night when her children thought she was asleep. Her lips quivered as she tried to answer them. She wanted to promise them everything, but all she could do was hold them tighter. The man watched quietly, not pressing, not rushing her. There was no pity in his eyes, only respect. Respect for her struggle, for her strength, for her courage to endure when others might have given up. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her chest heavy but lighter than it had been a moment ago. For the first time in years, someone had looked at her not as a burden, not as a failure, but as a mother who deserved to be helped. And in that quiet moment, she felt the weight on her shoulders shift, not gone, not erased, but shared. A stranger's compassion had cracked the walls she thought were unbreakable.